Hi, Nick here from Poppyfish. In this video I'm going to introduce you to a facilitation exercise that I call Force Field 2. It's also called other things in other books, and it's a great way to use your strengths to overcome obstacles to reach a common goal. So this is an exercise you would use to target an aspiration, something you're trying to achieve, and create some actions as to how you're going to get there. I'm going to use it on Google Jamboard, show you how it works. But of course, you can also do this in a human-centered workshop where people are in the same room together using post-it notes or facilitation boards. What it starts with is, first thing we must do is define our goals. What is it we're trying to achieve? And the second step is working perhaps with one group of people looking at the barriers or problems that stand in the way of our goal, and another group looking at what are our strengths that are driving us towards our success. And what this looks like in terms of the facilitated exercise is that firstly we have a goal, so this is an aspiration that we're trying to achieve. Then we have some barriers that stand between us and the goal, and finally we have some strengths that we're going to use to help us overcome the barriers. Once we've established those, the next stage of the exercise is fairly straightforward and probably fairly obvious. What we do is we create actions. We look at how we can use the strengths to overcome the barriers and paste those actions, smashing through the barriers and helping us to achieve the goal. In terms of a Jamboard, what we do is first we'll go into our Google area, go into Jamboards and add a new jam. So that's easily done. Press a button and a screen appears. We're going to use this with our online session to help other people input post-its. Of course, I'm showing this to you just with myself working, so it'll only be me adding the post-its. So first of all, of course, we start with what it is we're trying to achieve. So we add a note at the top, and this is going to be our goal. Let's imagine that our goal is to improve, well, no, let's not just improve, let's say better cross-team working. Because I know it's a very common thing in business that organisations work really well within team, but we don't necessarily work so well across teams. So here we are, better cross-team working is our goal. So we post that in, and we would put that at the top. So that's where we're trying to get to, right at the top. Next thing we do is we create what is it that's stopping us from getting there. Now, often in teams, the way this works really well is to have half the people who are naturally pessimistic, who don't believe that cross-team working can perhaps be improved because of whatever reason. We ask them to work on the negatives. So let's see, what kind of negatives could they have? Well, for instance, there could, and because he's negative, I'm going to say that they're pink, which is the closest colour we've got to red. What are the negatives? Well, let's say that we're geographically dispersed. There we go, that's a good one. So we can't improve cross-team working because we're in one country and they're in another. What might be another barrier we've got? It's a different discipline. It's a different area of work, and we don't understand quite what it is that they do. What else stops us from working effectively across teams? Do you know what? We're just too busy and there is no time to do it. We just got too much other stuff that we have to work with. And we just don't know them. You know, they're in a different place. We don't know who they are. We don't know them. We don't understand them, and that's not very helpful either. Now, of course, you could go on and create lots of barriers as why things don't happen, and that's fine. If there are lots of barriers, sometimes it's good to explore those. But it's worth doing with this exercise is setting a limit to how many you want. I normally work with, say, 6 being the maximum number of barriers, but it's rather dependent on the exercise. And for this exercise, for the example, I'm just going with 4 because 4 is enough for me to work in and for you to understand how it works. So, okay, so those are barriers. So we're going to put those, this is the wall that we're going to put here that's preventing us from getting through. It doesn't look like much of a wall, does it? But these are the obstacles that are stopping us from breaking through to our goal. Now, the other aspect of this, and this can be done at the same time as the team that are doing the negatives, is that we ask another team or another group of people to come up with what is it that, what strengths do we have? What is it that we have that is enabling us to achieve the goals. So let me see. Well, this is an enabler. So, okay, we wanted green because green is a positive let's go colour. What have we got going for us that's going to help us improve our cross-team working? Well, firstly, let's say we believe that we are good communicators. We think that's important and that's one of our strengths. What else have we got? We've got great tech. We've got really good technology that allows us to be a great team. Okay, that's brilliant. Let's put that in there too. What other positives have we got? We've got a commitment and a desire to improve things and make this work. That's really important. We're interested in other people, maybe. That's a strength of ours as well. And finally, we've got a great leader. We've got all these things going for us. Now, it's worth noticing in this exercise that it becomes an awful lot easier if you have more strengths than weaknesses. Imagine doing this exercise where somebody came up with 400 weaknesses or barriers and only 3 strengths. Well, that might be a bit tricky. So what we try to do is always make sure that we come up with more strengths than we've got barriers. So here we are. These are the strengths now. These are the strengths that are going to help us achieve our goal, and these are the barriers stopping us from getting there. So what's next? Well, what's next is fairly straightforward and obvious. What we do is we say, okay, how do we use these strengths to overcome these barriers, and how do we combine them? We can say, yeah, okay, let's say we're going to, tough one. Now, why don't we use our great technology to hold an online event? Maybe that might be quite helpful. We can hold an online event that would help us get over the fact that we've got a geographically dispersed team of people. We do it online. They can all tune into it. So why don't we say that we're going to use our tech. Use our tech to create an online event for sharing. Okay, that's quite a good idea. Yeah, that would help us maybe achieve better cross-team working, reach out to the other team. What else might we do? Let's have a look back at where we are. So that's going to be an action that potentially goes on that one. We're good communicators, and we've got good tech again. So maybe we can combine those two together to create something online so that they can get to know us. Perhaps produce a promotional video or tell them what we do. So, okay, good idea. So again, let's put a post-it note in there. Let's say, create media to introduce ourselves to them and maybe help them do the same so we can understand them a bit more. Well, do you know what? By doing that, we're also actually tackling this challenge that they've got a different discipline they're working in as well. So that's going to help us understand what they do and who they are. Let me see. We've got commitment and desire. We've got a great leader. We're too busy. Well, maybe we can use our great leader as our strength. To perhaps somebody would say, yeah, we can negotiate time with our boss to prioritise this. Negotiate is a word I can't spell. Negotiate time with the boss to allow space to do this. So we're actually negotiating that time spent working with other teams is important, and we want to make sure that we've got that set aside and ring fenced, if you like, so that we can get on with it. We don't know or understand them. Okay, well, how do we get around that one? Well, perhaps that's a little bit caught up in here in terms of what we could do. Maybe we can invite them to do the same, which we've put over here. Use our tech to invite them to do the same thing. And maybe somehow we can have a proper get-together. So maybe we can have a social to include them. A bit difficult in times of lockdown, but when that's lifted, we may be able to do that. So that's something that very often you will see to try and pull teams together. Let's have a social, get to know them a bit more. And perhaps another thing we could do is encourage some secondment. That might be something that will go with our boss, being a great leader, to allow us to get to know them a bit more. So What we've got then is a process where we've identified our goal, we've said what it is that's stopping us from getting there, we've used our strengths to identify how we might use our strengths to overcome the barriers, and we've created some actions to help us do that. And then, of course, some of these actions, of course, no reason why you can't have multiple actions. Some actions may not be carried through, but that's how you prioritize these actions is a subject of another discussion. So there you have it. That's how you can use Force Field 2. Good luck.